What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes news for October 15th, 2025. And today we have our first look at the hero and the skills of Vulcan 2.0. I mean, from the looks of it, it looks like a blue version of Vulcan, to be honest. But this is Iron Corn Mecha Basilisk, so I guess it's not all that far off. They both have very, very similar looks. However, they do perform very differently. And today we have the skills and the background of this hero. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let's talk about this hero. Now, starting off, they said in this backstory, Basilisk is a character design that combines organic and mechanical elements. Therefore, we integrate both biological and mechanical features into the overall design. The main color scheme uses cool tones such as blue and purple paired with bright colors like pink and green to convey both the coldness of void tech civilization remnants and the uniqueness of the mystery of the Legion Core. And you can kind of see why I kind of feel like this legit looks like a very much Doom Terror Vulcan type look. We'll have to see how he actually performs, but let's take a look at the abilities here. There's a lot of keywords as always, so let's try to break it down slowly but surely. Starting off with the Overload Annihilation Protocol. Active skill, dealing attack damage to enemies. We don't know how many, but it's not all of them. Then additionally deals extra attack damage to the enemies that have corrosive code and removes that skill effect from that target. The enemy takes a certain percentage of the target's attack damage several times when corrosive code is successfully removed, and if self has kinetic destruction, each layer will restore self HP by a certain percentage of his attack, increasing self attack for several rounds and dealing attack damage to all enemies, and then all kinetic destruction owned by self will be removed. So we have to see how we get that kinetic destruction and how we're applying that corrosive code. So the fact that the active skill has a built-in heal self-sustain is pretty interesting. We have War Machine. The first passive changes the basic attack to dealing attack damage to the backline enemies. Interesting, kind of like a Star Swordsman Mockman type thing. And there is a chance to inflict corrosive code on each target respectively and grant self layers of kinetic destruction. It does have a cap, and afterward increases your speed. So right there we already see how we're applying that corrosive code to do that additional damage, as well as how to get those layers of kinetic destruction, which it sounds like you can get up to like 4 if they have 4 in the back line. If we're talking about other game modes, less of course. But again, those kinetic destructions are going to let each layer restore HP on the active skill. So kind of interesting, The corrosive code, you can see what the effect is right at the top here. Not stackable, but reduces the owner's speed, reduces the owner's all damage reduction, and this effect is reduced every single round. Corrosive code will be ineffective if the inflictor dies. So if for some reason this hero, Basilisk, dies, they just don't do anything anymore. So kind of interesting. He's kind of about speed, which his main character was as well. The fact you're also reducing all damage reduction on the enemy seems pretty good. After that, we have Devouring Jaw. When an enemy releases basic attacks or active skills, if the enemy's speed is not higher than self, deals attack damage to the enemy and grants self several layers of that kinetic destruction. If the target also has corrosive code, additionally deals a certain percentage of a target's attack damage to the target. If not, there is a chance to inflict corrosive code on them. And if the enemy speed is higher than self, you're going to steal speed from them. So the fact that you can steal speed is something that is not very common. The only other time we have like speed being a huge thing is back with Olivia swapping speed with the highest speed enemy. So this could be interesting, especially since he has some interactions with speed, giving him some sort of speed stone, boots, and all these other things. It could add up and be pretty impactful. Really just don't know if he can be faster than enemies in a lot of the later game modes, which is the tricky part. Of course, going before the enemy team in a lot of the late game PvE is kind of near impossible. So if you can get to that point, that could be pretty sick, especially early game. Maybe first Transcendence hero. You get some Rogans on your squad. Course, not working in Void campaign. I don't know, it could work. We'll have to see. We have the last passive skill called a Destruction Command. At the beginning of each round, if there are no enemies with corrosive code on the battlefield, it will inflict it on enemies with the highest speed. So probably just one, and then if there's like multiples that have the same speed, like in Void campaign, sometimes you face 6 Gustin, it would apply it to all of them at the same time, and granting self several layers of kinetic destruction. I'm kind of intrigued to see how many layers of kinetic destruction you can get, since it says there is a cap, and there's a lot of things it can add kinetic destruction to your hero, so maybe like 10, 3, we don't know. Then also steals a speed from them for several rounds, which again, another speed thing, pretty cool. And this happens at the beginning of each round, so this stealing of speed might actually speed him up faster than the enemy. So pretty interesting considering it's really interesting how this works out. I don't know. When the battle starts or when Self is in the battle as a substitute, apart from the effects above, it grants the stolen speed to enemies with the lowest speed for several rounds and reduces the target's all damage dealt. So that's pretty crazy. So let's just talk like beginning of the battle, we jump in. Self is in the battle as a substitute or at the beginning, apart from the effects that we already talked about, grants the stolen speed effect to enemies with the lowest speed. I don't know if that's necessarily talking about the enemies get speed to make them faster, which would sound weird. It almost sounds like the slowest enemies or the lowest speed enemies will get stolen to your Basilisk. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But also reducing the target's all damage dealt, so it must be that way. I don't know, this is tricky. If there's a way at the beginning of the battle and then also at the beginning of each round, there's ways to steal speed, that's pretty cool. And then we also have the information on the Core of Origin. Each time Self gains kinetic destruction, restores all allies' HP by a certain percentage of attack and increases their speed for several rounds with a chance to grant combat impulse to random allies for several rounds. That seems pretty powerful. That actually sounds like a very good Core of Origin, potentially even for a first Transcendence hero. Every time you gain kinetic destruction, which we've talked about, there's lots of ways to get it, you restore all allies' HP by a certain percentage of attack. I wonder if it's going to be a percentage of his attack or their own attack. So it's not going to be like a full heal for lower power heroes. It's going to be a percentage of that hero's attack. I don't know. That's pretty interesting. The only thing we don't know is what Combat Impulse actually is going to do, right? I don't think they talked about Combat Impulse at all. So that's intriguing. I don't know. This hero sounds interesting. I like the tenants, to be honest. This is actually one of the few tenants I haven't been mad at. Having a Sun Wukong on your team with this hero kind of sounds pretty cool. Having some CC on top of his speed stealing. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. He looks like a really awesome hero. Like, again, he literally looks like Vulcan. We'll have to see if he performs like Vulcan, because that's going to be the big telltale. I would love to see a new hero come out that can absolutely decimate if you build him fully. And this might be actually one of them. So if you've had a Basilisk or you plan on building him, this might be the week to do it. Of course, it's not in the light faction, so I'm probably not going to build it. But if you build it, hit me up. I would love to test this out, especially on like a first Transcendence hero type of squad, because that's a really good way to see how his abilities work. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.